So it's, for me, being vocal is about being an ambassador for female entrepreneurs, but also, for the challenges that female entrepreneurs have in fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's, to be a role model to show that, you can, as women, we need to be more involved in angel investing, because that's where the innovations come from. And you can have a very direct impact, because women love having impact and
Yeah.
having, having seeing directly what their impact is. And, with angel investing, you almost can't get any closer than making true
Yeah.
impact than
True.
through angel investing.
Welkom bij Women Disrupting Tech. Mijn naam is Dirk-Jan Hupkes en in deze podcast ga ik op ontdekkingsreis in de wereld van vrouwen in de technologiesector. Ik ga in gesprek met vrouwen die in tech werken of oprichter zijn van een tech-startup. Ik ga op zoek naar het antwoord op de vraag hoe zij er wel in geslaagd zijn om succes te hebben. Met andere woorden, hoe zij de technologiesector disrupten. Luister je mee? Hey, welcome back to Women Disrupting Tech. Thank you for listening. And before we start, I want to wish you a very happy, healthy, and inclusive 2024. Now, when you're a startup founder and you're looking for your first funding, you will need to find an investor who believes in you and who understands what you're building. Because if all goes well, you will be working with this investor for a very long time. Now, this is exactly where many female founders run into problems. Because when they pitch a solution to a typically female problem, it's unlikely for a male investor to understand it. And as a result, female founders in tech are grossly underfunded. Enter Tessa de Flines. As an angel investor, she invests in early stage female ventures. And as a co-founder at Masters of Scale, she helps these startups create a future-proof organization. I figured these would be great ingredients for a magical episode about the world of investing time and money in female-led tech startups. In this episode, we'll discover how female angel investors are essential to improving the chances of female-led tech startups getting funded. We'll hear how you can avoid that your startup belongs to the 70% of startups that fails at scaling. Plus, we'll learn Tessa's recipe for finding the right investments. So please welcome to Women Disrupting Tech, Tessa de Flines. Hey Tessa, welcome to Women Disrupting Tech. The first question I always ask to every guest is how you got into your current job or current position.
Well, first of all, Dirk-Jan, thank you for having me. It's I've been listening to your podcast for a while, and it's an honor to now be a guest myself.
Mm-hmm.
So about me. First of all, important to know is I was born and raised in the U.S.,
Yeah.
but I had Dutch parents. So actually, after my bachelor's degree at Georgetown in D.C., I moved to New York and worked in advertising for 2 years. And then I decided to do my MBA at Nijrode in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what brought me here a little bit more than 20 years ago. And I ended up meeting my Dutch husband and staying. The first part of my career was in large corporates. I had several international roles in process improvement, strategy, and marketing at General Electric for a few years, and primarily at ABN AMRO,
Mm-hmm.
where I worked for almost 13 years. And after that, I made the step into entrepreneurship, actually through an acquaintance, through my network. And it really opened the eyes to the impact that I could make in a small company.
Mm-hmm.
After having worked many years in large corporates where, sometimes you feel like you're a screw in a very large machine.
Yeah.
It was refreshing to be able to work in a small company, make impact quickly, make changes quickly. I
Mm-hmm.
was always working, doing stakeholder management, change management, and in a smaller company, there's a lot less management to do on
Layers.
that part.
Ah.
Actually, after two ad interim roles as a COO in smaller companies, I decided that I wanted to work on businesses and less in businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so to make that transition, I started networking. Obviously, something very important for women, but I'll touch on that later.
Mm-hmm.
And just before Corona, I met my partners of Masters of Scale, um, which is my current company.
Mm-hmm.
So with Masters of Scale, we help companies with all kinds of scaling challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a broad network of about 30 experienced entrepreneurs and experts. And we can either help with strategic advice or more recently also with fractional leadership. So
Yeah.
working with companies on a fractional basis, 1 to 3 days a week to help them get certain leadership positions up and running.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and secondly, about 2 years ago, I started angel investing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Getting involved in startups, also maybe want to financially contribute. And fortunately, I was able to do so. So I started doing that through the cooperative called Great Stuff Ventures. So we're a group of 20 people. We invest together and manage a portfolio together. So it's been a great learning experience for me. And about a year ago, I also started to do some smaller investments outside of the group, and that I only
Mm.
do in female entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll touch on more on that later as well. And
Yeah.
lastly, I'm also chairwoman of an organization, a foundation called Female Ventures. So with Female Ventures, we empower women in their careers, any kind of career, whether you're an entrepreneur or work in the corporate or government or as a freelancer. And we do that with knowledge, inspiration, and networking through our events. We have a community and a mentorship program. So that's another serious hobby that I have that I think also ties into this podcast well.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack. What I want to start with is female founders, because I read in a report that Amsterdam is the fourth biggest ecosystem in Europe when it comes to tech startups. But when it comes to female founders, we're at the 21st place. And I was wondering if you have any views on what's holding female founders back.
Yeah, definitely. And I've learned more and more about that in the past couple of years, having come into the world of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, First of all, I think it has to do with self confidence. Unfortunately, from a cultural and potentially also a genetic perspective, but I think primarily cultural, women tend to have less self confidence,
Mm-hmm.
and a fear a failure, so that they're maybe less likely to dare to take the step into entrepreneurship, or they don't feel like it's their place. Obviously, there's because of that, there's also less role models.
Mm-hmm.
And I strongly believe in the statement, you can't be what you can't see.
Yeah.
So there's not enough examples for women to dare to take the step. I think in the Netherlands specifically, there's also a culture of part-time working. A lot of women work 3 max 4 days a week.
Yeah.
I think especially at the beginning of a startup, that may not always be possible. It
Mm-hmm.
depends. Of course, every startup can be different, but it's also a cultural thing where you think, okay, if you have a startup, you have to work 100 hours a week. So
Yeah.
that may be also holding women back. So I think that's the first point. The second point is visibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think for these same reasons, women tend to focus less on their visibility, and that hampers, I think, the startup process to gain traction, to get investors,
Mm-hmm.
and to really promote themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that's a second factor, and it relates to the first factor, right? It's
Yeah.
all intertwined. And lastly, I think it's about the right connections and mentors and networking. As I mentioned earlier, I found my co-founders through networking, and I
Mm-hmm.
made a conscious effort to really start networking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of women underestimate the value of networking. Also when I worked in a large corporate,
Yeah.
I thought, as long as and I unfortunately had to learn that the hard way. I thought if I just do my work well, things
Yeah.
will come to me, promotions will come to me, new opportunities will come to me. And I had to learn the hard way that you have to network, you have to ask for these
Yeah.
things. You really have to actively manage your career.
Yeah.
And and that's also what I try to do with female ventures, is try to educate women on the fact that and create awareness on this more early on in their
Mm.
careers, that you have to actively manage, network, um, and thereby create your own right connections, create your own mentors, ask for people to mentor you, and so actively seeking these things out. I see that you
How
want
do
to ask
you
a question.
Yeah. How do you ask for someone to be your mentor? Is that, I mean, in a company, it's, let's say, for lack of a better word, easy relatively, because you have some water
Yeah.
cooler talk, as they call it, or coffee machine talk in the Netherlands. It's probably more. Uh, but how do you do that as a startup founder? Do you really go out also um, to network events also to get mentors, or
Yeah, I think it's about seeking out role models.
mm-hmm,
For me, role models are not necessarily people that are extremely well known and have
mm-hmm,
are kind of the famous entrepreneurs. For me, my role models have been women that have done really well, have been very successful,
mm-hmm,
and are now working to help women achieve the same.
mm-hmm,
And it's about actively reaching out to those women. In my experience, if you reach out to someone, unless they for some reason don't get your message, and you're asking for sparring, for feedback,
mm-hmm,
people are very positive to that, and they're very likely to respond and have a conversation. And I think if it's someone that you don't know yet, I think it's about getting to see if there's a click with that person,
mm-hmm,
if you feel like they can add value, if you feel like they can learn from you as well. Mentors are it's not only about as a being a mentor myself is not only about sharing your experiences, but it's also about gaining new experiences and inspiration from someone that you're mentoring. So
yeah,
it's about seeing if there's a click. But for me, it's been actively reaching out to people. And
mm-hmm,
sometimes if you spontaneously meet someone, it's about follow up, right? If you
yeah,
feel that there's a click, it's about reaching out to that person. And I have mentors still from my time at ABN AMRO that I still reach out to and see. It's not on a monthly basis, but sometimes on a
no,
yearly or bi-yearly. But still, you maintain that relationship because they you add value to each other.
yeah, yeah. I think that's also very important to state. It's not just a one-way street. You add value to each other,
Yes, exactly.
because that's also one of the things that I think is, at least, is holding women back, or people in general, to be honest, is that they don't see it as a two-way street. I just come to get something, and
Yeah,
what do I offer in return?
yeah,
But
yeah.
your journey gives inspiration to the mentor, gives also insights to the mentor that he or she did not have previously.
Yeah, and by nature, people love helping. It makes
Yeah.
them feel good too, right?
Yeah.
So it's not only that they get a good feeling
Hmm.
by helping other people, but as I said, they also get inspiration from the other person's experience. And I think that's really important as well.
Yeah. I want to switch tracks a bit, because you're investing as an angel
Yeah.
in primarily or exclusively almost in female founders. Um, from what I hear from you, you get pretty decent deal flow. But I also hear people, let's say at the next web conference in June, that there were people who don't get this deal flow. Um, maybe you can educate those people on how you get sufficient deal flow
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
female founders.
Yeah, and just to nuance, with the group that I'm a part of, Great Step
Yeah.
Ventures, we don't only invest in female
No.
entrepreneurs. I try to obviously bring as many deals in as possible,
Yeah.
especially because we invest in deals above 250K. So if it's above 250K, I will first bring it to the group so that it can
Mm.
be a larger ticket because we invest together.
Yeah.
If it's less than 250K, I see if it's something that I'm personally interested in.
Hmm.
So just to nuance that, so I don't only invest in female entrepreneurs, but it's definitely more heavy weighted to female
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. So to get back to your question, I think it goes back to what we were just talking about. I've spent serious efforts in creating my own visibility or increasing my
Mhm.
own visibility. I network a lot.
Yeah.
So I go to events, I go to pitch events where I meet people, where I listen to pitches and do follow up. And what I also do is I've joined outside of my my primary group, Great Stuff Ventures. I've also joined other angel groups and platforms that focus primarily on female entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
like Joanna Invest or the
Yeah.
Angel Initiative. Um, so, and now my network knows to find me. So, and also on my LinkedIn headline, I have investor.
Mhm.
I said to myself, as long as I don't get flooded with all kinds of junk, I'll keep it up there. Unfortunately,
Mhm.
I think people have been relatively respectful of that, and I'm not flooded with junk. So I also have some inbound coming through LinkedIn where people
Mhm.
find me, but most of it is through my network. I'm quite also involved with accelerators through both my work, but also as a mentor.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think that's what how I'm able to get good deal flow.
Yeah, because as you said, you are pretty visible and vocal about it.
Yep.
Uh, Other female investors are not, or not to the same extent. At least I don't see them that often on my timeline. Uh, do you know why that is? Why, or
Uh,
let me turn
yeah.
this around. Why do you choose to be vocal about it?
Yeah,
Because it's a
I think
choice.
that's a good question. As you know, a year ago I was I was less so,
Uh-huh.
but I realized that for me one of my personal drivers is to make impact
Mm-hmm.
and to be valued for my expertise.
Yeah.
And I realized that by being more vocal, I can make more impact,
Yeah.
and I can help other women, and also there be a role model for hopefully other women to also become angel investors because
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to be super rich to become an angel investor. For example, with Joanna Invest or the Angel Initiative, you can participate for €2,500, for example. And there's crowdfunding platforms where you can
Mm-hmm.
participate for even less.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be super rich, and I think that's a kind of misconception. But I think it ties into why certain women maybe don't want to be known as an investor because they think if people see me as an investor, then they'll think that I'm super rich, and then they may have a different perception of me, or I may be targeted for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to also in my visibility also break the myth that you don't have to be super rich to be an angel investor. Obviously, you have to have your ducks in a row on your other financial investments, your
Mm-hmm.
traditional assets. If you have any property, so those angel investing is high risk, right? So
Yeah.
it's something that should be the last thing that you do. But so it's for me, being vocal is about being an ambassador for female entrepreneurs, but also for the challenges that female entrepreneurs have in fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's to be a role model to show that you can as women we need to be more involved in angel investing because that's where the innovations come from, and you can have a very direct impact because women love having impact and
Yeah.
having having direct seeing directly what their impact is. And with angel investing, it's you almost can't get any closer than making true
Uh,
impact than
True.
through angel investing.
Yeah, true. That's absolutely true. That said, that impact is long term
Yes.
because yeah, basically you're in bed with a founder for 10 years, 7 to 10 years usually. So you can't, and there's no liquidity.
No, in
So
most cases not. No.
so that's something people have to get in the back of take in the back of their mind. It's also part of the high risk that you run. Not necessarily
Yeah.
that it's a bad person or a bad investment, but it's just not liquid.
No, definitely not. It's not like the traditional stocks that you can just sell off
Yeah,
on the market the next day or the same
yeah,
day. Yeah, it's a long term investment. Yeah,
yeah.
indeed.
So. So you're an investor in early stage startups. When you look at the pitch decks or the pitches or the proposals you get, what do you look for in an investment?
Yeah, that's it's something I had to develop my style over time too as
Hmm.
well. I definitely noticed that men and women tend to look at different things, and if I look
Hmm.
at what I personally look for, the first thing is impact.
Hmm.
And my definition of impact is that it really solves a problem that needs to be solved to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Often this has to do with the SDGs, but not always.
Hmm.
Because of my background, I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt,
Hmm.
which is all about process improvement. I'm
Yeah.
also naturally into efficiency and process improvements, so those kind of solutions are also very interesting to me.
Hmm.
Um, that you can do things easier and better.
Hmm.
But as I said again, it's for me, it's about impact. It's about a belief that excites me, that I want to be a part of.
Hmm.
For example, I've invested in Elfin.
Yeah.
I know that one of the founders, Puck, has been on
Yeah.
this podcast as well.
Yep.
Um, there I'm a big supporter of their mission to help women gain financial knowledge and skills to ultimately achieve financial independence.
Hmm.
And they do it on their own terms. They have, they connect women with advisors who also fit Elfin's approach. And it's they're making impact in women's lives, and that's to me the first thing that I look for. The second thing I look for is someone in love with the problem and the customer. Unfortunately, you see a lot of founders who are extremely product focused, and
Uh-huh.
they're so unfortunately sometimes they're less clear on who's actually, what problem are they actually solving,
Hmm.
who's actually going to buy this. And yeah, that to me is a red flag. So I'm always asking, but what problem are you really solving? um, uh, uh, you know who is your customer? Tell me more about them.
Hmm.
I'm looking for, do they understand the drivers and the needs of their customers inside and out?
Hmm.
Um, so that's the second thing. Third thing is focus. Being a kind of COO profile myself, I tend to help my customers with focus and priorities. So obviously, I look for that in my
Hmm.
investments as well. When you're an entrepreneur, there's so many things you can do and achieve, and it's very tempting to do them all at the same time.
Yeah.
But obviously, as we know, that's just not possible. So I look for whether entrepreneurs have a clear and realistic roadmap and plan for what they
Hmm.
want to achieve. And things will never go as you expect. I think as a
Hmm.
startup investor, you can expect that plans will change. We have
Yeah.
to just be prepared for that. But if that happens, I look, okay, how are they adjusting priorities? How are they taking this new plan into account, and handling changing circumstances. Um, so there, it's about focus. The next one is passion. When obviously during Corona, but still now, I hear a lot of pitches also virtually.
Hmm.
And when you can feel someone's passion almost through the screen,
Yeah.
that says a lot. And passion is contagious, and it's something that you want to be a part of. Obviously, it's something that intrinsically motivates me as well. So
Yeah.
that's another thing. Execution power, also related to focus, but
Yeah.
without passion and ambition, passion and ambition are nothing without execution.
No.
So it's all about the mindset. So not all entrepreneurs are good in this.
No.
They're visionary, they're forward looking, which is extremely crucial. You need to have those people as well. So I
Hmm.
look to see either do they have someone in their team who is then able to take their visions and their ambitions and execute on them. So
Yeah.
that's or have they gathered people around them in their hires that
Hmm.
are able to do that. Then I look for, and by the way, I have this list because I've talked about it before,
Hmm.
so I have this nicely prepared list. I look if they're a team player. I've come across founders that are kind of, as they say in Dutch, an Eiselganger or a lone
Yeah.
wolf.
Yeah.
And then you have to really think about, but are they, if they start hiring people, they start building, are they able to bring people along with them?
Yeah.
are because that's also crucial in being successful.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I
Also,
look,
be building a team
yeah, yeah,
is like
definitely.
extremely important, either from the start when you have a founding team, or because of the people you hire, you have to also hire. Do you think you also have to hire like people who are not like you?
Yeah, I mean, diversity is obviously extremely important. Whether it's gender or in the way people think, in their background. Yeah, ideally, the best CEOs always say they hire people that are smarter than them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's extremely important. Yes, yeah, and just to because some people start on their own, right? And I'm
Yeah.
not against solo founders. I know some investors are. It's about the key man risk or key woman risk.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to the company if something happens to this person? Um, so what I'm looking for then is if they don't have co-founders, can they tie people to them? Can they get people to be on board in their mission, and would they take it forward if something did happen to that person? So that's also for me a sign of being a team player.
Yeah.
Something else is short and concise, and this is an art, right? It's very difficult to be right
Yeah.
to the point. And I know this from experience. Being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur myself and talking about my own company, sometimes it's you want to say everything,
Yeah.
but then you lose people.
Yeah.
And and the key to this is to practice really well,
Mm-hmm.
and not fall into the trap of wanting to add everything. And someone said to me not too long ago, show, don't tell. And
Yeah.
I found that a really powerful statement. And so the simple tip
Mm-hmm.
I try to also give to everyone I meet is, if you're pitching to someone, stop after 4 sentences.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you where, if I'm at an event and at some point I'm like, oh God, please stop, because the person just keeps talking and talking and talking
Yeah.
about their solution, and they've lost me.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't necessary. Maybe if I'd been able to engage, and then I could have regained my energy.
Yeah,
But
it's also
yeah,
a point. Let's say after 2 or 4 sentences, it's also a natural point to have a little break to also gauge
yeah,
uh, how the other people in the room are feeling.
yeah. And do
So
they
if you
understand what you're saying?
do they understand it? Do they agree? Do they click on what you're saying? Like, do they think, yes, this is a person I want to do business with? Because you can often see that after like a couple of seconds already.
Yeah, yeah,
And if you just, it's you really can't underestimate the power of looking at people's faces, how their responses are, and to the power of silences,
yeah.
which,
Exactly, exactly. I've had many founders that if they would have looked at my eyes, they would have seen they were kind of glazing over.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, they didn't pick up on those things, and
yeah.
so then it was time for a bathroom break.
Yep.
Move on.
Yeah. Moving on. I want to talk a bit about scaling a company because you invest as an angel. You invest in early stage startups, which is, if I understand, often pre-revenue. So before they actually,
It's a
or
mix.
on it,
Yeah,
let's say the bigger investments are probably in post-revenue companies.
yeah,
But why do a lot of companies maybe not fail at building a good product and bringing it to market, but scaling it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of people, obviously, the statistics that 9 in 10 startups fail, right?
Yeah.
And I think this statistic that less people know is that 70% of scale ups fail.
Yeah.
So it's no guarantee that just because you got through the startup phase that make it through the scale up phase. And that was actually the premise why we started Masters of Scale, because
Hmm.
we saw this happening. Or at least my co-founders, who have been
Yeah.
entrepreneurs for more than 30 years, saw it happening. And and I joined the journey. So first of all, yeah, I mean, as these numbers show, scaling is hard.
Hmm.
It's they sometimes call it the valley of death, or you're moving into the growth phase where
Hmm.
you're taking everything you've built and you need to step on the gas, right?
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that you have to not do certain things. So why we often see companies struggle with scaling is because of lack of experience. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they've never done this before,
No.
or you know, they're fresh out of the university.
Mm,
Um, but also, you know, either they've come from a corporate, so you know they've never gone through this process before. And
mm,
you know, building a startup, there's so many courses, books, you know,
yeah.
accelerators that can help you
Yeah.
get through there. And there's kind of the same stages you have to go through. But when it comes to scaling, it becomes a unique journey almost for every company.
Yeah.
So that's when experience is extremely valuable.
Mm-hmm.
The second is also the expertise. Obviously, the more you scale, the bigger you get, the more expertise you need in certain areas. When you're a startup founder, and you know, I know this myself. I also have multiple hats. You kind of do everything yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or with the, you know, with your co-founders, everyone, all of a sudden you dive into marketing or sales and you learn everything about that.
Yeah.
But for scaling, you actually need the expertise of someone who's done it before and who has that specific expertise in
Mm.
combination with the experience, and who can help you to professionalize in that sense. Yeah.
So this is also where the hiring of people becomes really
Yeah.
crucial.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And you know, and then it's also about systematically
Mm.
scaling up.
Yeah.
So you know, it's building a solid foundation. You know, at the beginning with a startup, you can get away with, you know, not having any serious processes or you know, formal meetings. But at
Mm-hmm.
some point, you need to start building systems, processes, and structure
Yeah.
to make sure that you have a foundation that you can build on further.
Yeah.
And just to, you know, to get into the message or the point you made before, it's about also about having the right people at the right time.
Yeah.
Some people are great for the startup phase, but they're just not
Mm-hmm.
designed for the scaling phase.
Yeah.
You know, if they're not about you know, about processes, about, you know, building structures, um, then they may not be the right person for the scaling up phase.
Yeah.
So, and that's where, you know, the hires that come in with who've done it before, with experience and with a different mindset, that then are the right people for that phase of your company.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also very often overlooked. And you often see that the founder isn't maybe necessarily the best person to be the CEO, because they don't
Yeah.
like managing. You know, they just want to be visionary. They want to, and you know, sometimes they also wait too long to pull someone in.
Yeah.
You know, and it's tough. You also have to have the money, right,
Yeah.
to hire people in. And to be honest, that's also why we started this new fractional proposition for Masters of Scale, because we saw that if they can't afford a full-time person, you can at least start with someone 1-2 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, move towards, design the role, move towards the phase where you're able to hire someone full-time.
But what does that person do in 1 day or 2 days a week? Is it then actually because I was just curious. I don't get a lot done in 1 day a week because usually I have to land a bit and then do do a lot some stuff. So what I usually end up doing is work on structure and on
Yeah.
processes rather than the part where it really the content. Let's say is that
Yeah.
also the added value of a fractional COO or CEO?
Yeah, indeed. It's about starting to put those foundations in place for that specific business area, right?
Yeah.
Um, but because it's someone with experience, I think they're
Mm.
able to land quite quickly.
Yeah.
And obviously, in any company, it'll take you, you know, a few weeks to really understand how does everything work here, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, the business. You know, and then I think in certain roles, having sector expertise is more needed than in other roles.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's really about starting to design, you know, the basic processes, the basic structures, the basic meeting uh, uh,
Cadence.
system, yeah,
Yeah.
cadence indeed, that needs to be in place, and starting to take some work off of the founders'
Mm-hmm.
plates, so that they can focus on the things that they're good at and that gives them the most energy.
Yeah.
So indeed.
Okay. As an extension, how do you, on what we just discussed, how do you create a future-proof organization? Is that also only a matter of structure and processes, or is there something else involved in that magic mix?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. So it's indeed about the solid foundation that I talked about before, and having the right people in the right seats, in the right places at the right
Hmm.
time. But
Hmm.
actually, it starts much more fundamentally than that. It's about having or solving a problem that truly needs to be solved and that people are willing to pay for. That's really where it
Hmm.
starts. Because if you don't have that, then you're not going to be sustainable as a company in the long term.
No.
So I think that's a crucial aspect of a future-proof organization. It's also about innovating. You also need to keep innovating yourself, even though you may be a disruptive startup.
Hmm.
Things can change so quickly, and you can all of a sudden be disrupted by another startup.
Yeah.
So sometimes you see that the inertia sets in because you think, okay, we did it, we survived the startup phase, we and now we're just good to go. But you need to keep also disrupting yourself. And I don't know if you've heard of the three horizon model from McKinsey, but this is something
Hmm.
that I find that works really well for startups in terms of also their strategic plans. So the
Hmm.
first horizon is about optimizing your core business, your current business
Yeah.
model, and making that as efficient and as streamlined as possible.
Hmm.
Horizon two is, okay, what new markets, new geographies, new customer segments, new products are you going to branch out into next?
Yeah.
And then Horizon 3 is about how are you going to disrupt your own business model? This is the innovation
Yeah.
horizon. And, I think obviously when it's a small company, it's a little hard to build that into your organization. But as you grow, it's ideal if you have these kind of three horizons also built into your business as usual
Yeah.
organization. And often you see that one of the founders is often busy in Horizon 3, right?
Yeah.
They're in the disruption, the innovation phase. And what we found is having this model ties them back into the organization.
Yeah.
They're not being seen as like, what is that person doing? They're totally on a different planet.
Yeah.
But also between co-founders, we found that this works to say, okay, it gives it context why
Hmm.
that person is out in left field,
Yeah.
busy with something completely not related to the current core business. But that's also crucial that they're doing that.
Yeah, and it also gives you the opportunity, I think, as a founding team, but also maybe as board members, to really focus that person out in left field. Like, okay, why are you out in left field?
Yeah,
What's
exactly.
the context where we should be looking for, or that we are missing?
Yeah, and also
And
tie it into put KPIs and
mhm.
objectives and goals around what that person is doing as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's what I mean by building it into the organization, so that that it's not just you know out hunting with no clear
yeah,
goal, or but
just
that
hunting
it
for the hunting.
exactly, exactly. So I think having that clear vision about where you're going to next, and seeing it as a kind of roof tile, right? That there is some overlap with the next step that you're
Yeah,
taking.
yeah,
I think is also really important. So that's about the innovating piece that I think is also crucial for a future proof organization. And and just final point back to the kind of foundation and the right people. It's also about creating a well-oiled machine, right? That things are um, moving smoothly, that
yeah.
things are growing smoothly and not out of control. Something I recently read the book Traction. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
heard
Yeah,
about that with the EOS model, and that's something. Yeah, that was for me a nice structure to also follow, to make sure that you're addressing all parts of your business as you scale.
yeah. Well, that's very important that you don't leave any parts of your business behind, because
No, no.
then it quickly can get out of control and ruin your future.
Yeah, it's the risk that some people will die or become a victim of their own success, right?
Yeah,
That they break themselves as they grow.
yeah.
And that's unfortunate. They may have. I mean, you see, like Van Moof obviously is an example of that, right? That they,
Hmm.
selling and getting customers wasn't the problem. It was more on the internal piece that was that didn't.
Yeah,
keep up.
they couldn't service the demand. And
Exactly,
that's
exactly.
usually when things go really, really wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to move on a bit. We briefly already talked about Elfin, but which I guess is going to be in this list. But which are the two or three investments or companies that you're most proud of as an investor, or maybe even as a person where you help them scale?
yeah. Yeah, well, let me focus on companies for the moment that I've invested in, also to give them the stage. Obviously, yes, indeed, I mentioned Elfin. These
Mm-hmm.
are two female founders who are, yeah, they're really going for it. And they want
Yeah.
to really help other women. And kind of the what I see with the investments that I'm the most proud of is persistence, confidence.
Yeah.
They're data driven, they're focused on results, and whether they need to go left or right, they are going to achieve their goals.
Yeah.
And that's what really impresses me. And obviously, that's what you also see with strong scaling founders. But yeah, it's what continues to impress me. So Elfin is a great example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Augmeta is another investment that we've done actually with Greystar Ventures, but I
Mm-hmm.
brought it into the group. It's a company that translates 2D MRI scans into 3D holograms that ultimately allows a surgeon
Mm-hmm.
to prepare in kind of a hologram. So
Mm-hmm.
with these one of these glasses, real time
Yeah.
in front of you to prepare a surgery to prevent mistakes because they can see
Yeah.
exactly if I drill here, I'm not going to get to the right place, so I need
Yeah.
to drill there. So it's all
Oh.
focused on brain surgery at the moment, with the ultimate goal, and they're not there yet, but I think this is what excites me the most, is to be able to project the hologram onto a patient on the operating table real time,
Yeah.
so that they can immediately see, okay, we are doing this, we're drilling into the right place, for example, for brain surgery. And
Yeah.
that just excites me so much because it also opens up, for example, new opportunities in Africa where they may not have all the fancy equipment, but with just a HoloLens.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Augmeta is actually a software company,
Yeah.
so they don't provide the hardware. That they are able to prepare and execute much better on surgeries. So for me, that's and by the way, also a female founder, incredible experience, and has also two great co-founders who bring in the augmented reality and the surgical experience. So it's a very a great team, a
Yeah.
complementary team. But
Mm-hmm.
I just get so excited about uh, the goal of their solution.
Yeah, because that's incredible.
Yeah,
Because it basically the augmentation in itself is existing technology.
yeah,
It's something that Meta has done for I think like 4 or 5 years now. But to really enable surgeons in lesser developed lesser developed countries to do surgery right
yeah,
the first time, so not making mistakes. And even I think in Western societies, that's quite still a bit
yeah,
a big
yeah.
issue. And in the US, I can imagine that they will have a lot of customers because they avoid a lot of the litigation risk.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're currently in the process of getting FDA approval. So
Yeah.
even though they're software, they still need to go through all these CE FDA
Uh
approvals.
huh.
So
Yeah.
that so it's you have to be patient
Yeah.
with this. But yeah, it's indeed it's avoiding mistakes, and therefore also avoiding potential pain for their patients.
Hmm.
And Yeah, that's just what excites me so much about this solution.
Yeah. Cool that you're in also in health, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. I'm nowhere near an expert in it, but
Yeah.
as I said, it's the solution that really excites me the most. And by the
Yeah.
way, they're starting with the brain, but their goal is to move to all parts of the body.
Yeah.
But obviously, the brain can be isolated, and so then they're not moving. It's not moving during the
Hmm.
surgery. Obviously, if you're going to do heart surgery, the chest goes up and down, right? So
Yeah.
that's the whole new challenge that they're going to, that's their horizon three, right? That I
Yeah.
was just talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. But the brain is also the most intricate part, I guess, of the
Yeah.
body because if you mess up there, you really make the wrong impact.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now they're already starting to move into dental surgery and things like that. So
Yeah.
that's also, the head can be fixated.
Yeah.
So that's really. And the last one I want to mention is actually, another investment we did with Great Stuff Ventures. I'm not extremely close to them on a day to day basis, but here again, the goal, the solution their problem, the solution they're solving really motivates me. Is called Kilter. It's an
Mm.
Irish company, and they have software that can be put into mobile phones that
Hmm.
detects and reports bullying, cyberbullying. And so for me, that also there, the goal is just amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and and they're talking, we're talking about into the deepest parts of the phone, so that things can't be removed or hacked or something like that.
Uh,
But there again, it's just an amazing goal
yeah.
that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and very much it ties into current mental health problems that we have, which are can be a result of the
Yeah.
bullying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I have a 12 and a 14-year-old, and they're also getting into that phase. Fortunately, as far as I know, they haven't experienced any bullying or cyberbullying, but
Hmm.
there are so many kids that do. And if
Yeah,
that can be prevented, and something can be done about it, that helps prevent future situations or future bad consequences. Yeah, that's great. But as you can imagine, it's an extremely complex solution to also get implemented.
yeah,
So here
especially
again,
if you,
persistence is
yeah,
important.
yeah, especially
Yeah,
if you want to put it in a part of the phone where
yeah,
it can't be hacked.
yeah, yeah.
That's a nice bridge to my one of my final questions. I have an arrangement with Jacqueline van den Ende, one of the previous guests, that I want to make this podcast irrelevant 10 years from now. And I was wondering what your expert advice would be to make this happen.
Yeah, that's of course I've heard this question. You've asked this question every time, and I always love hearing
Yeah.
the answers. For me, what I'm starting to realize more and more is it's about starting at an extremely early age with girls. So to create more awareness about all the different career opportunities. Not just about the ones that maybe their parents are pushing them into, which
Mm-hmm.
for some cultures tends to be in certain specific careers,
Mm-hmm.
but also just that they're exposed to role models,
Mm-hmm.
about firefighter, for example, that
Yeah.
most girls don't think that they could ever become a firefighter because they don't ever see female firefighters.
Yeah.
So there, it's about exposing them to different role models and different, maybe also the less known careers. For example, my daughter wants to be
Mm-hmm.
industrial designer. And of course, she didn't make that up herself. It was
Yeah.
something, given what she talked about and what she loves doing. It's something that I suggested to her
Mm-hmm.
because it matched what she seemed to be interested in. And
Mm-hmm.
now it's something she's very proud of. She wants to go to TU Delft, and it's something that
Uh-huh.
I encourage her to do. So I think it's also about the encouragement from parents. I recently, I think I heard on one of your podcasts that mothers are the best way to
Yeah.
influence girls,
Uh-huh.
and so I think it's also it's about also educating the mothers about all the different choices.
Yeah,
Um,
because I was about to say you're knowledgeable and well versed in tech because of your background, but I can imagine that for mothers who are less into this,
yeah.
it's a bigger challenge. Is there a role for the father there?
Yes, yeah, that was indeed my next point. I think it's also about the crucial role that fathers play. So
Hmm.
I was an only child, so I was
Hmm.
my father's only daughter, but that didn't stop him from bringing me up onto the roof, fixing things, and also, by the way, in the U.S., you have wood shop, but you also have sewing and cooking for all
Yeah.
kids. It's not only the girls that take these classes, the boys that take the certain classes. It's all kids are getting exposed to these basic life skills.
Uh-huh.
But it's also about fathers, involving their daughters in maybe say the more household or technical activities instead of always just doing it with your son or not
Yeah.
doing it with them at all. So I think I definitely even though I don't work in a technical environment or use technical skills for
Mm-hmm.
my work specifically, although I taught myself to build websites. I think it's I would say I'm quite tech savvy
Mm-hmm.
thanks to the example that I had from my father and also his genes.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried. I'm not scared about trying new things. I love gadgets, and they really excite me. And that's a example that I also got from my father. So I think both mothers and fathers, but also schools, play a crucial role
Mm-hmm.
in getting more girls involved in technical careers,
Yeah.
and to be more open minded to that.
Yeah, fully agree. Sounds like a great place to wrap. Thank you very
Yeah.
much, Tessa. I really enjoyed this conversation. Last question I have is where can people find out more about you, about Great Stuff Ventures, about Masters of Skill and Female Ventures?
Yeah, all my different hats. Well,
Yeah,
first of all, I also very much enjoyed this conversation. Thank you, Dirk Jan, for the opportunity. I'm very active on LinkedIn,
yeah,
so feel free to connect on LinkedIn. All my different activities have websites. Feel free to visit mastersofscale.nl, femaleventures.nl, or greatstuffventures.com.
okay,
But you can get to all those websites through my LinkedIn profile. So I would say that's probably the best place to start. And it's the platform I'm the most active on.
good. Then we'll include those links in the show notes. And yeah, once
Thank
again,
you.
thank you very much for the great conversation, Tessa, and listeners. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Women Disrupting Tech, and I hope to see you in the next time. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Tessa and I hope that you've enjoyed our conversation as much as we did. You can connect with Tessa and learn more about her work for Masters of Scale, Great Stuff Ventures, and Female Ventures via the links in the show notes. And as usual, you can find the show notes at womendisruptingtech.blog. There you can also find a link to the report from EIF.org that we discussed in the podcast called the VC Factor, the Gender Lens edition. Plus, I've included a link to the podcast episode with Puck Landewee that I recorded back in 2022. Did you know that on the website you can also join the Women Disrupting Tech community? Membership gives you access to exclusive Women Disrupting Tech events, and it allows you to be among the first to learn when new episodes go on air. If you don't want to miss another episode of Women Disrupting Tech, you can also follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and Google. And if you do, please don't forget to give the show a rating or a review, because that way you help other people find the podcast. Now, if you want to contribute to more diversity in tech, please share the podcast with friends, family, and coworkers, because this way you give my guests the platform they need to make this podcast obsolete 9 years from now. Finally, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast, or if you want to suggest a guest that I absolutely have to invite, feel free to drop me an email via the website or send me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram. That's it. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode.